Guten Tag, sehr geehrte Damen und sehr geehrte
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
hiermit 12:01 die
On 1 minute past noon, I hereby open the EGM of our company, the invitation of which was published in the Federal Gazette on the 25th of November 2022.
Aufsichtsrats der Uniper.
After Markus Rauramo appointed me as chairman, I will chair this extraordinary general meeting in my capacity as deputy chairman of Uniper SE. On behalf of the Supervisory Board and the Management Board, I'd like to extend a cordial welcome to you, our shareholders, shareholder representatives, media representatives, and everybody else following the proceedings of this AGM via the Internet.
Meine Damen, meine Herren,
Ladies and gentlemen, you will have read in the invitation to this EGM, the Board of Management, with the support of the Supervisory Board, has decided to hold this extraordinary general meeting as a virtual meeting, according to the provisions of the so-called COVID-19 Act, that is, without the physical presence of our shareholders and shareholder representatives.
das Covid-19
The COVID-19 Act is applicable to this extraordinary general meeting by virtue of the special provisions included in the Energy Security Supply Act and the Economic Stabilization Acceleration Act.
wird gewährleistet, dass Maßnahmen
This will ensure that stabilization measures that are crucial for the continued existence of Uniper SE can be submitted to the general meeting for resolution this year and thus be implemented.
da einzelne
Since, as communicated by Uniper, individual elements of the stabilization measures could only be defined on the 23rd of November 2022, we had to resort to a shortened convening regime, which is provided for in the COVID-19 Act and which the legislator has declared applicable given the importance of the notified measures in the Energy Security Act and the Economic Stabilization Acceleration Act.
wir bedauern,
We regret that we were unable to invite our shareholders to this extraordinary general meeting earlier and hope for your understanding for this necessary procedure.
ich möchte nun auch Herrn
I would also like to welcome Mr. Harald Seegatz, who is present at the meeting venue, CCD Congress Center Düsseldorf.
Die weiteren Mitglieder
The other Supervisory Board members are connected via the Internet, and it is possible for them to communicate with me and the members of the Board of Management who are present here today.
Zudem begrüße ich herzlich
Let me also extend a warm welcome to Uniper's Board of Management. Our CEO, Klaus-Dieter Maubach, and our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. David Bryson, are present in this room together with me. Our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Tina Turmele, and our Chief Commercial Officer, Mr. Nickton Hollander, are also present at the venue, and they may communicate with me and the members of the Board of Management who are present here today.
persönlich anwesend ist auch
The Notary Public, Dr. Armin Hausschild, who will keep the minutes of this AGM, is also present.
zudem sind
And finally, there are the designated proxies who've been nominated by the company, and they're also present in this room. Now, we are aware that the decision to hold a virtual extraordinary general meeting will inevitably restrict our shareholders' rights. More particularly, this EGM does not provide for a debate between the Supervisory Board, Board of Management, and the shareholders. Despite that fact, Uniper places great importance on guaranteeing shareholders' rights, even in the context of this virtual format. And this is why the company has arranged for various ways for you to exercise your rights as shareholders to the extent possible and permissible in legal and technical terms.
Ihr Stimmrecht kann durch Sie
You or your representatives may exercise your voting right by postal vote or by instructing the designated proxies. Additionally, it was possible for registered shareholders to put questions to the company before the EGM. We will address these questions after Mr. Maubach's and my own speech.
kommen wir nun zu den Formaten.
Let us now move to the formalities governing this meeting. Let me share with you a number of details on how this virtual meeting will be held.
Während der gesamten Hauptversammlung
During the entire proceedings of this EGM, there will be a simultaneous translation from German into English, and you may change your language settings on our website.
zu den Regularien. Ich stelle
Now, a few matters of form. I note that the invitation to this EGM was published in due time and form in the Federal Gazette dated 25th of November 2022.
die
The extraordinary general meeting of the company, initially convened for today with publication in the Federal Gazette on the 11th of November 2022, to deal with the notification of losses pursuant to Section 92 of the German Stock Corporation Act, was cancelled. However, the notification of losses is the subject of today's extraordinary general meeting under Agenda Item 1. In addition, under Agenda Item 2, a capital increase and a authorized capital will be submitted for resolution to today's extraordinary general meeting. These so-called stabilization measures are intended to partially restore the company's weakened equity. All publications relating to the invitation have been available on the company's website since the day the invitation was published, and they are also available for inspection in this room. This has been verified by the Notary Public. You have now been informed about the invitation to the EGM. The company has not received any requests for additional agenda items, which is why we're only going to be dealing with the agenda as published in the Federal Gazette. Neither has the company received any counter-motions or election proposals in due time and form. On Uniper SE's website, we've published further details on how personal data of shareholders of Uniper SE are processed. The Notary Public, Dr. Hausschild, will file a copy of the invitation documents, including the agenda and the full wording of the proposed resolutions with the minutes of this meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, I note that the invitation to this EGM was published according to the relevant legal requirements and in line with the provisions of our Articles of Association. The list of participants is currently being compiled. The official meeting area comprises the meeting room from where we are broadcasting the proceedings of this EGM. Any changes in attendance which occur during the EGM will be recorded in the list of participants on an ongoing basis, and once the list has been prepared, I will give you the current attendance figures. If there are any changes in attendance, I will give you the updated figures before I announce the voting results. Ladies and gentlemen, after my introductory remarks and after the reports by the Board of Management and the Supervisory Board, we will address shareholders' questions which were submitted in due time and form. After the questions have been answered, we will proceed to the vote on the agenda items and to pronouncing the resolutions. Ladies and gentlemen, let me also say something on the voting procedure. To cast your vote at this virtual EGM, you may use postal vote, that is, vote by fax or email, by letter, or you may use the shareholder online service or instruct the proxies designated by the company. These voting modes will continue to be available until I close the vote on today's agenda items. I will make a separate announcement before voting closes. Up until then, you may also still change your vote as explained earlier. I will remind you again to vote at the appropriate time, but let me already now ask you to vote without undue delay. Further details on how to exercise your voting right are available in the invitation documents and in the additional information and notifications on shareholder rights, both of which you can find on the company's website. The proxies designated by the company will vote on the individual agenda items by releasing the votes deposited in the system as per your instructions. The postal votes received in due time will also be taken into account when determining the voting result. The voting process and counting of the votes will be monitored by the Notary Public, who has verified that the technical setup is fit for purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to today's agenda, let me now, as announced earlier, give you the first attendance count at this virtual EGM of Uniper SE. It is based on the list of participants, and I would also like to give you the number of postal votes we have received so far. For the time being, the attendance figure is 300,547,694 no-par value shares. This is 82.13% of the company's share capital. In addition, we've received postal votes in the amount of 1,229,806. This means that in total we have 301,777,500 no-par value shares present at this meeting, which is 82.46% of the company's share capital. We are very happy to see that so many shareholders have decided to follow the extraordinary general meeting via the online service. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now move on to today's agenda, which has 2 agenda items. You will have read them in the invitation, which is why I will be brief. Agenda item 1 includes the notification by the Management Board under Section 92 of the German Stock Corporation Act that a loss equal to half of the company's share capital has been incurred as at the reporting date 30th of September 2022. Agenda item 2 includes 2 resolutions. In agenda item 2A, the Management Board and the Supervisory Board propose a capital increase against cash contributions by 8 billion euros and 10 cents, with shareholder subscriptions rights being excluded and corresponding amendment of the Articles of Association pursuant to Section 29, paragraph 2, sentence 1, numbers 2 and 6, and paragraphs 3, 5 and 6 of the Energy Security Supply Act, in conjunction with Section 7 and 9, paragraph 1 of the Economic Stabilization Acceleration Act. In agenda item 2B, the Management Board and the Supervisory Board propose a resolution on the creation of an authorized capital 2022 of up to 25 billion euros and 10 euro cents, with shareholder subscriptions rights being excluded and corresponding amendment of the Articles of Association pursuant to Section 29, paragraph 2, sentence 1, numbers 2, 4 and 6, and paragraphs 3, 5 and 6 of the Energy Security Supply Act, in conjunction with Sections 7b, 7, paragraph 3, 7f and 9, paragraph 1 of the Economic Stabilization Acceleration Act. I would now like to ask the Board of Management to report on the situation of our company and to explain the capital increase and the authorized capital proposed under agenda item 2. In addition, I would like to ask Mr. Maubach to please comment on more recent developments since the invitation to the extraordinary general meeting was published. Today, Uniper SE concluded a framework agreement with the federal government which specifies the stabilization measures. Most of the necessary regulatory approvals have now been obtained. State aid approval by the European Commission has not been obtained yet, but it is expected that this will follow shortly. Klaus-Dieter Maubach, you have the floor.
Thank you, Bernhard. Ladies and gentlemen, dear shareholders and guests, I'd like to welcome you warmly to this extraordinary general meeting, which will be so crucial for Uniper's future. Since our annual general meeting in May, our company's financial situation has deteriorated significantly due to the Russian gas supply curtailments. Uniper was close to having to file for insolvency. Today, we're asking you, our shareholders, to approve the stabilization measures that we have negotiated with the German government. They're indispensable for this company's future. The extraordinary financial burden required us to recognize a loss equal to more than half of Uniper's share capital on the cut-off date of the 30th of September 2022. Today, we're notifying you, our shareholders, of this loss. To give you a complete picture of the company's situation, I will start by, once again, talking about the causes of this development. Uniper has been a major purchaser of gas from Russia for more than 50 years, based on long-term contracts with the Russian supplier Gazprom. In late February, Russia began a war of aggression against Ukraine. Thousands and thousands of people have already died or have been injured. Uniper strongly condemns this war. Around 8 million people have fled Ukraine. This is staggering and continues to concern me and all of us. At the same time, Russia is waging an energy war against Europe. This has plunged the entire European energy market into a severe crisis. However, this crisis is not just affecting Uniper as part of the energy sector. It also affects other sectors of the economy, especially manufacturing, and ultimately each and every one of us. This shows how important energy is for our daily lives. Uniper is a linchpin of the gas and heating market, and thus is of key importance for Europe's energy sector. Until this past summer, gas from Russia was always delivered reliably to Uniper under a predefined price mechanism. Uniper, in turn, supplies this gas that it has procured under long-term contracts based on a predefined price mechanism to about 1,000 customers, usually municipal utilities and industrial clients. These price mechanisms are geared to the price mechanism of our supply contracts with Gazprom. After Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February, Gazprom initially continued to fulfill its delivery obligations to Uniper. As you know, since then, the situation has deteriorated. Energy has been and still is being misused by Russia as a means of exerting pressure. In this context, Gazprom reduced its gas deliveries to Uniper in June 22, with the result that we first received just 40% of the contractually agreed amounts of gas from Gazprom. In late August 2022, Gazprom completely suspended gas deliveries to Uniper and to this day has not resumed them. We consider this to be a clear breach of contract. Uniper is taking all measures to assert its claims against Gazprom for failure to deliver gas. As was recently announced, in late November, Uniper initiated arbitration proceedings against Gazprom Export. Ladies and gentlemen, for Uniper to continue to meet its supply obligations to its customers, Uniper must procure the outstanding gas volumes elsewhere. This replacement of gas from alternative sources takes place on the wholesale market at prices that are significantly higher than those agreed with Gazprom. We cannot pass these high costs on to our customers. This is a question that we have examined intensely from a legal point of view. To give you an idea of the order of magnitude, Uniper covers about 1/3 of Germany's gas supply. We therefore incur a significant portion of Germany's gas bill. Due to the fact that prices on gas markets are both high and volatile, Uniper at times bearing daily additional costs from procuring gas from alternative sources, which reached the double-digit million range and which had peaks of more than 200 million euros. As a result, Uniper accumulated substantial losses over the past few months. Here are the sobering figures. IFRS results for the first 9 months of the 2022 fiscal year, which were published on the 3rd of November 2022, were significantly negative. Uniper's preliminary adjusted EBIT for the first 9 months of fiscal year 2022 was about minus 4.8 billion euros. In the same period of the previous year, we generated 614 million euros. Adjusted net income for the same period amounted to roughly minus 3.2 billion euros. In the previous year, it was 487 million euros. IFRS net results of around minus 40 billion euros reflect the losses incurred as of the 30th of September 2022, as well as anticipated future losses resulting from procuring gas from alternative sources in connection with the gas supply restrictions imposed by Russia. This makes it clear that Uniper also expects its adjusted EBIT and adjusted net income for full year 2022 to be significantly negative and substantially below the previous year's figures before taxes. As already stated, and in line with the aforementioned negative earnings under IFRS, the We also recorded a loss equivalent to more than half of its share capital under a German GAAP. We're informing our shareholders about this at this extraordinary general meeting in accordance with Section 92 of the German Stock Corporation Act. Uniper's share capital under German GAAP, consisting of subscribed capital, additional paid-in capital and retained earnings, and unappropriated profit, was 11.65 billion euros as of the 31st of December 2021. As of the 30th of September 2022, there was a loss totaling around 40 billion euros, resulting in negative equity of Uniper SE of around 29 billion euros as of the 30th of September 2022. This figure demonstrates in all clarity Uniper's balance sheet difficulties. Uniper's liquidity situation is very tight due to the effects of the gas replacement procurement to date. In addition, Uniper is obliged to provide collateral for commodity transactions arising from Uniper's ordinary business activities to hedge its portfolio. This is a common mechanism on exchanges comparable to a deposit that safeguards a buyer. The money flows back to us as soon as we deliver our product. The amount of this temporary collateral depends on the general level of commodity prices. In the wake of a sharp rise of gas, coal and power prices since summer of 2021, Uniper's collateral for these transactions also increased many times over. Against this background, Fortum, as our principal shareholder, granted us loans as early as in September 2021. In December 2021, Fortum granted Uniper the still existing credit facility with multiple tranches totaling 8 billion euros, consisting of a cash credit facility of 4 billion euros and a guarantee facility of also 4 billion euros. The Fortum cash credit facility has been utilized by Uniper in full. About 3.5 billion euros of the Fortum guarantee facility has been utilized to date. In addition, on the 25th of July 2022, Uniper initially utilized a 2 billion euro credit facility from the state-owned KfW Bank, agreed in January 2022. Since then, this credit facility has been extended progressively because of Uniper's significant liquidity needs resulting from procuring gas from alternative sources, along with rising payment obligations for collateral payments on energy markets. Since the last increase on the 7th of October 2022, the credit facility from KfW Bank has amounted now to 18 billion euros, of which about 14 billion euros has been utilized to date. Ladies and gentlemen, Uniper's business activities and creditworthiness are assessed by rating agencies. Uniper has an investment-grade credit rating, which is an essential precondition for our business, especially for Uniper's extensive trading activities. This is because many of our customers and counterparties are only willing to conclude transactions with us if we demonstrate commensurate creditworthiness or credit standing. It's therefore crucial for Uniper to retain its investment-grade rating. If this can no longer be guaranteed, billions in additional collateral payments to our business partners would become due. In May 2022, S&P Global Ratings downgraded Uniper's rating to from BBB to BBB- with a negative outlook. To make the significance of the rating clear to you, if our rating fell to the sub-investment grade range, known colloquially as the junk range, Uniper's existence would no longer be guaranteed. Due to our company's financial liquidity positions and to support its rating, on the 8th of July 2022, Uniper applied to the German Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action for stabilization measures. On the 22nd of July 2022, a so-called term sheet for a first stabilization package was agreed between the German government, Fortum and Uniper. Because of the complete suspension of delivery starting in August by Gazprom and the resulting additional increases in gas prices on the wholesale markets, ultimately a change in this agreement was required. On the 21st of September 2022, the German government, Fortum and Uniper, therefore concluded an agreement that nullified and replaced the term sheet of the 22nd of July 2022 with the following package of measures: a cash capital increase of 8 billion euros, with shareholder subscription rights being excluded, the sale and transfer of the German government to the German government of all Uniper shares held by Fortum, and the repayment of liabilities due to Fortum, rights of first offer for Fortum regarding Northern European hydroelectric plants and stakes in nuclear power plants, and a comprehensive bridge financing by the KfW Bank. This package of measures assumed the introduction of a gas procurement levy, which was to compensate Uniper's losses from Russian gas supply restrictions by 90% from the 1st of October 2022. On the 30th of September 2022, the German government announced that the gas procurement levy would not be implemented as planned and would be replaced by a tailor-made solution to ensure the financial stability of the affected companies. As you know, the German government decided at the end of September not to put the gas levy into effect. In fact, new shares will be issued, excluding subscription rights of current shareholders. Now, this agreement has now been cast in an agreement where it's been implemented, and that defines the rights of the German government for the period of its holding the stake, and also impose certain reporting duties on Uniper. The agreement also provides that Section 29(1)(a) of NSIC would be applied to the remuneration of the Board of Management members and Supervisory Board members of Uniper SE. Without the approval of the German government, Uniper will not distribute any dividends, and the Ministry of Finance will be responsible for monitoring and for administering the stake in Uniper. And also Uniper has signed an agreement with Fortum in which the limited right of Fortum was fleshed out to be able to issue a first offer if Uniper decided to sell the Swedish hydroelectric assets or the nuclear power plant stake. But currently there's no intention on the part of Uniper to sell these assets. The various regulatory approvals have also been received, and the EU's approval is awaited shortly. The resolutions to be adopted at the General Meeting will serve to partially restore the weakened equity in the wake of substantial loss, in particular in connection with procuring gas from alternative sources, and to secure the company's existence. Current and anticipated replacement losses anticipated until the end of the year will amount to about 14 billion euros. Under agenda item 2A, a capital increase of 8 billion euros and 10 cents, excluding shareholder subscription rights, is therefore proposed. The issue price for the German government to subscribe for new shares is 1.7 euros per share. This price corresponds to the prorated amount of the company's share capital represented by the shares, and is thus the minimum issue price as stipulated by Section 9 of the German Stock Corporation Act. The issue price is therefore below the stock market price at the time of the resolution of the Management Board, dated the 23rd of November 2022, and the Supervisory Board regarding the resolution on the company's extraordinary general meeting. The Management Board believes that the minimum price for issuing new shares in the context of the capital increase and the discount granted still appropriate. The German government was only prepared to subscribe for the shares at the minimum issue price of 1.7 euros per share. No similarly adequate measures are available to secure a positive going concern prognosis for Uniper. The company's equity and liquidity requirements cannot and will not be covered by its own funds in the foreseeable future. And the required funds and those provided by the KfW Bank to secure liquidity cannot be raised through debt financing on the capital market and the banking market. The implementation of the cash capital increase will result in the German government acquiring around 93% of Uniper's voting rights. Together with the acquisition of the Uniper shares held by Fortum, the German government will ultimately secure a stake of just under 99% in Uniper. In connection with this, there's also the upcoming change in the company's supervisory board, which we have already announced. Uniper is nominating 4 new members for its supervisory board: Tom Blades, Dr. Jutta Dönges, Dr. Markus Schenk, and Professor Dr. Ines Zenke are to join the Uniper supervisory board with a planned change of ownership to the German government. The 2 new Uniper supervisory board members, Dönges and Zenke, will be delegated by the German government. Tom Blades is to take over as chairman of the supervisory board. Blades, Dönges, Schenk and Zenke are to succeed the representatives of the current principal shareholder Fortum on the supervisory board, whose mandates are expected to be resigned after the extraordinary general meeting. The Uniper board intends to then apply to the Düsseldorf District Court for the appointment of the new supervisory board members. A constituent meeting of the supervisory board is still scheduled for 2022, at which the chairman and the committee members will be elected. Uniper's annual general meeting next year will confirm the new supervisory board members through a right of delegation and a corresponding election. It's also proposed under agenda item 2b to create authorized capital 2022 in the amount of 25,010,000, with the shareholders' subscription rights being excluded. Only if the German government or an entity cited in section 29 ENSIG will be admitted to subscribe for the new shares. Alongside the capital increase under agenda item 2a, and the equity has been very much weakened, is now even negative. The authorized capital 2022 is to be utilized to partially restore Uniper's weakened equity, in particular in connection with procuring gas from alternative sources and to secure the going concern of the company. It's to be utilized as needed in several tranches. Uniper has incurred losses of 10 billion euros by the 30th of September 2022 and faces expected losses of 14 billion euros at year-end 2022. It is therefore already apparent that the capital increase of roughly 8 billion euros alone will not be sufficient to stabilize Uniper. It's intended to partially restore the equity weakened by further loss in 2022, in particular as a result of procuring gas from alternative sources before the end of 2022. The authorized capital 2022 is also to be used to cover additional losses in 23 and 24 in order to partially offset the weakening of the company's equity anticipated in 2023 and 2024 as well. Uniper will meet the company's demonstrable need for capital rising, in particular in connection with procuring gas from alternative sources, initially by means of interim financing in the form of credit facility from KfW Bank, which will be repaid by way of inflows from capital increases based on the authorized capital 2022. This will apply as long as comparable and appropriate measures to secure a positive going concern prognosis for the company remain unavailable. Ladies and gentlemen, dear shareholders, the resolutions at this general meeting's on this general meeting's agenda are essential for Uniper. Without the necessary funds from the capital increase, Uniper's continued existence is jeopardized. To be clear, if approval is not granted, we would have to review very critically the so-called going concern forecast for our company. There may then be a risk of insolvency. In the management board's view, possible insolvency could lead to a complete loss for shareholders. I therefore ask you to approve the proposed capital measures. The teams at Uniper have done an extraordinary job over the past few months, for which I, also on behalf of my colleagues on the Board of Management, am very grateful. I want to thank everyone involved, above all my Uniper colleagues, as well as the representatives of the German government and Fortum, for their enormous efforts and high degree of professionalism throughout this year. We have vehemently defended the interests of our employees, customers, and you, our shareholders. We've thoroughly reviewed the alternatives, discussed the structure of the package with everyone involved, and intensively negotiated the individual components, terms, and requirements. In asking you for your approval today, we are calling for your solidarity because your stake in the company will be reduced. The situation is painful, but unfortunately, there is no other way. There's no other option. Ladies and gentlemen, today is an important day for Uniper. A lot of work awaits us in the weeks and months ahead. It includes the restructuring of our gas portfolio and the creation of the conditions for the LNG supply that Germany urgently needs. So we are aware that a support package funded by taxpayers, particularly one of this magnitude, is not to be taken for granted. We are grateful and relieved that the German government is giving us prospects for the future. The figure in the order of 33 billion euros comes with a clear responsibility, the responsibility to ensure that the taxpayers' investment in Uniper will help to secure Germany's and Europe's energy supply. Uniper intends to pay back all loans and utilize as little as possible of the planned authorized capital of 25 billion euros. Finally, our organization will continue to prove each step of the way that we merit this financial support, not only with our gas procurement contracts and global trading business, but also with the secure and competent operation of system-critical power plants, the management of energy storage facilities, and in future, above all, the production and procurement of climate-friendly hydrogen and investments in renewables. Together with the German government, our goal must be to secure energy supply for people and industry at all times, and to sustainably transform the supply with the aim of making it compatible with the Earth's climate. Uniper's task in the years ahead will be to consolidate its position and thus regain the right to grow, which will not be an easy task. We have a rocky road ahead of us, but now's the time to pave the way. Uniper has already demonstrated its resilience in the past. We'll do so again, despite all the challenges posed by recent geopolitical developments. Thank you very much for your attention.
Vielen Dank, Klaus-Dieter, für die ausführliche.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maubach, for your comments. Ladies and gentlemen, there will be no report by the Supervisory Board at this extraordinary general meeting today. Mr. Maubach has reported in detail on the issues which are relevant to this extraordinary general meeting. However, I would like to briefly discuss the work of the Supervisory Board over the recent weeks and months, in particular since the annual general meeting in May of this year. Russia is continuing its brutal war of aggression against Ukraine. The Supervisory Board condemns the Russian actions in the strongest possible terms, and unfortunately, we have to note that so far it has not been possible to stop these belligerent actions. As you know, this war has escalated into an energy war between Russia and large parts of Europe, triggering an energy crisis. The war has significant impacts on economic relations with Russia and also on Uniper. Klaus-Dieter Maubach already explained that in June 2022, our long-standing contractual partner, Gazprom, initially significantly reduced their contractually agreed gas supplies in June, only to stop deliveries altogether at the end of August, which is why Uniper had to procure the missing gas volumes at significantly higher prices in order to supply their customers, and this put a considerable strain on Uniper's financial and liquidity position. Klaus-Dieter Maubach has reported in detail on the mitigation measures taken by the Board of Management. As Deputy Chairman of the Supervisory Board, I would like to, and I can assure you at this point, that over the past few weeks and months, the Board of Management and Supervisory Board have worked closely together, and that the Supervisory Board has been continuously informed about the actions of the Board of Management. The Supervisory Board has reviewed these measures and formed their own view of the situation of the company. As already discussed at the annual general meeting in May 2022, the Supervisory Board, given the crisis, significantly increased the frequency both at its plenary meetings and the meetings of the Audit and Risk Committee. Since May 2022, the Supervisory Board has met 23 times in full session. In addition, the Audit and Risk Committee has met 8 times for consultation. At these meetings, the Supervisory Board dealt in particular with the liquidity and financial position of the company and the significance of this for the credit rating, as well as the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war on Uniper, and discussed the measures taken by the Board of Management. The Supervisory Board also reviewed and assessed the ongoing analysis by the Board of Management with a view to insolvency law. In addition, the Supervisory Board was of course always very closely informed about the Board of Management's negotiations with the German federal government and approved the agreements concluded in July and September at the convening of this extraordinary general meeting. Furthermore, the Supervisory Board approved the gradual increase of the KfW credit line. Finally, I would like to assure you that the Supervisory Board considered the approach of the Board of Management and the measures taken by the Management Board to be appropriate. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the presentation of the agenda, and we will now close the public broadcast of our extraordinary general meeting. I would like to thank all viewers for their interest in our company. Our shareholders can, of course, continue to follow the extraordinary general meeting.